Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming on my channel and listening to what I see whenever I watch different war movies. Now, at the minute, movies are saturated with conflicts. Conflicts bring in money, they bring in power. What else do? They make good movies. However, the movie depends on who the military advisor is to that movie. Now, being a combat veteran, I critique war movies when I sit there. All veterans do. We sit on our sofas and we watch these movies and we can't help but notice things that we see wrong. Now, I did a critique the other day of Black Hawk Down, right? And I'm not going to go into the specifics because I do understand that when movies are made, they're made for the general public. They're made for the explosion, the excitement. They're not made for veterans. They're not made for military personnel. We are a small percent of the population. So whenever you're sitting there as a veteran, a combat veteran, and you're watching these movie stars moving down a street and they're all very close, and the first thing we say is that's wrong, they should be spaced out. If a grenade was to land there, it would kill 4 of them. So as veterans, we see this in movies. We see the spacing's not right. We see the angle's not right. But if you look at it for artistical purposes and a movie, you need to get as many actors in that scene as possible. So they do close up the spaces and they make it look a little bit unrealistic. But to the public eye, they don't realise this. They just see an awesome scene. Veterans are sitting there pulling their hairs out going, this is unrealistic. But let's get back to it. Now, having been in combat situations, like many people watching this video probably have, and we know the fear factor. We know the adrenaline. We know that whenever something kicks off and you hear that crack and thump of a bullet and you try and count, you hear it, you go, 1, 2, and you try and work out the distance between where it's being fired from and where you heard it. That's what soldiers do. So you work it all out and you go, is that realistic or not? Now, when you are in the thick of it and there's enemy gunfire coming towards you, you need to identify it. You need to identify the firing point. You need to suppress that position. Win the firefight. Move forward. Do a left flank. Do a right flank. Call in fast air. Drop mortars. There's loads of things that goes through a soldier's mind. But let's look at the movie Lone Survivor, based on a true story, where 4 Navy SEALs got dropped off Operation Red Wing. Their plan, the mission was to identify a leading commander. Now, there's different stories of what happened next. There's stories which deconflict, whether they were in a position of overwatch, which the movie and the book showed, and a guy with cattle came up and compromised the mission. There's other stories going around where the Taliban actually heard the chopper dropping off individuals and they went looking for the team. We can only go by the story of Marcus Luttrell. At the end of the day, he was a member of the Navy SEALs. You have to understand that that is a prestigious honour to be in the Navy SEALs, one of the best special forces units on the planet. Now, if you do go and watch Lone Survivor and you're a veteran, I must warn you now that it could very well trigger post-traumatic stress disorder, which is probably sitting dormant in you. When I watched Lone Survivor, I'm going to be honest, I felt nervous watching it because it is so realistic to a gun battle. When I was watching that and I was zoomed into that Lone Survivor movie and I was going through the woods and then I was spotting the Taliban moving and I was moving left and right, it draws you in. Now, if you've never been in combat and you're a serving member of the armed forces and you've never been in combat, it's hard to sort of explain to you the reality and the realism of what that movie is about. Because when you're watching it and you're seeing them falling and you're seeing the injuries and you're seeing the suppressive fire from the Taliban, the aggression and the relentlessness of how they come up towards you, it is so realistic. When you're on the battlefield and you're fighting against the Taliban, which I've done in many different operations, a lot of the time the Taliban tend to scurvy away. They don't want to get up close and personal. But try telling that to the guys that fought at Musikala. Try telling that to the guys that fought at Sangin when we were hit from about 4 or 5 different locations at once. The relentless, the ferocity, the ferociousness of the Taliban coming at you. That movie, if you watch it, will trigger your PTSD. If you don't think you have it, take the chance. But whenever I look at all war movies, Lone Survivor, to me, is the most realistic gun battle that I have seen. The relentlessness, moving through the green zone, moving north in the green zone, getting hit with an IED, then getting hit from the flank. I did a mission in Sangin, an operation, when I was part of C Company 3 Para. And our job was to do relief in place because B Company 3 Para needed to be out of the fob. So we went in. We had fast air. I remember CVRTs going up the Sangin Wadi. I remember being attached to B Company 3 Para and moving through. And what happened? I remember a guy called Paddy Caldwell on the left-hand side of a different flank being shot in the neck by the Taliban and falling down. I remember being tasked to move forward. I remember being pinned down. I remember the ferocity of us being pinned behind a wall. Lone Survivor is a film that should have trigger warnings on it for any veteran that suffers from war. Anyway, listen, thanks for watching my video. Thanks for sticking with me. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.